Okay, welcome back. Um, Unfortunately, I had a quick draw today. I say unfortunately, from the perspective of the tournament, in terms of getting a good result in the tournament, it's quite a good result for me because I was playing against a former British champion. I was black. He had more points than me. Obviously, you could look at it another way and you could say, well, look, you're half a point behind. You should be trying to win. However, I don't tend to think about the tournament standings until the end. So you're looking at the individual result. It's a good individual result. Um, I don't think my opponent went in with the intention of having a quick draw. However, I think he was a little bit, let's say, perturbed maybe by the fact that I was playing this theory quite quickly, and I was obviously well prepared. So sometimes, if you're well prepared and you're playing quickly and confidently, that can. So I've had situations on the reverse side where I've gone into games feeling reasonably confident, and my opponents have wheeled out a load of opening theory, and they've done it quickly and confidently, and that can kind of put you off a little bit. So I'll quickly show you the game because it's very interesting from a theoretical point of view anyway. I was black in this game. And I decided to play bishop f5. Now I have played c5 before. So the reason I played a carry, I don't normally play the carry, I normally play the Sicilian, but occasionally I wheel out the carry against well-prepared players. Like Harry's a very well-prepared player, generally speaking. Um, I lost a couple of games to him Sicilians, respect, he played very well. He's a very good player all round. He won the British Championships. You can't be a British Championship winner, in my opinion, if you're a one-dimensional player. You must have an all-round game, and he's proven that in the past. He's a good all-round player, but he's particularly good in opening preparation. Often, I've found he's kind of put me to the test in the opening. So I felt like Caro was a good choice. It's quite solid, right? Not much can go wrong. It's one of the better openings with black against e4. But I have played c5 before. It's kind of under a bit of a cloud now because they generally take and they do something which doesn't look very remarkable, but tends to offer white a lot of attacking chances. Get the knight to f3. So you can imagine a scenario like this. If black was to castle, there might even be a Greek gift sacrifice in the air. So I have played that, but I felt like Harry would probably have a vague idea what to do against that. So I decided I know the best move must be bishop f5, right? It's got to be the best move. You get a bishop out the pawn chain. That's the whole idea of the Caro-Kann. Get the bishop outside the pawn chains. It's better than the French where it gets stuck in behind the pawns. Now Harry played h4, which is the funky line recently. He had a lot of games in the database of h4. I expected him to play h4. I was, however, a little bit concerned he might deviate because I didn't really know what to do. I only really prepared for the main line, which was h4. I went e6. So yeah, so round about here, in this position, sorry, this is all wrong. After h4, I play h5, right? I didn't go e6, I went h5 because the whole point of e6 is they go g4. This is the whole point behind h4. You trap the bishop. If the bishop comes back, you go h5, and then you're going to lose the bishop, right? So you can't go e6. E6 is a move you'd like to play, but it doesn't work. So h4, black has a choice. Queen c8 has been played here, but generally they either go h6 or h5. Now h6, I believe white goes g4. And the point is, if you move the bishop away, you have this interesting pawn set with e6, which is quite dangerous for black. Magnus Carlsen had a game recently against Sari Aryan in this line. And stuff like this happen. I think, do you go bishop d3? I'm not entirely sure what white plays, but I know that white gets very good compensation for the pawn. So I felt like that was an interesting option, but a little bit dangerous. I felt like in this game I wanted to be solid, so I went h5, which is a more solid move. Harry played bishop d3. And after e6, he did say after the game that he regretted not just playing the solid option, which was knight f3, which I kind of agree with him, and just playing like a positional, kind of a slower game. And I'm not entirely sure what you play here, but I believe white is slightly better here. In fact, I think I've played this line myself as white in a Hastings recently. And I won a nice game against somebody, quite a young player, I think Ismail. Actually played a decent game for once. So I kind of had some vague idea. Vague idea of what to do as white, but I'm not sure what I would have done as black if Harry had played knight f3. But he played bishop g5 fairly quickly. Queen b6. Now to get anywhere here, you have to go for the sharp line as white. If you play quieter stuff after knight d2, yeah, after c5. If you play quieter stuff here with knight f3 or c3, you get nothing. So you have to go for this move c4, which is blowing up the center. Makes the position incredibly sharp. Queen b2. Black's hand is more or less forced. I think knight c6 is playable, but leads to a better position for white. I think white takes on d5. I can't remember exact details, but I remember the computer was saying that white is clearly better. I mean, a lot of the preparation now is dictated by the computer. You're just following the engine lines. It's a bit boring, but it speeds up the process. It takes a lot of creativity out of preparation. But just following the engine line can often be a good thing to do. So I took on b2. This is the correct continuation. Now rook b1 is a slightly inferior move. I think then you get quite a comfortable endgame. I think after takes. So at the moment, what's the pawn count? You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 against 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So black's even a pawn up. But of course, white is got a lot of activity. Rook b7 is coming. But I think after a move like f6, black is doing reasonably well. So variations like this are possible. Probably not take because this will happen, and white will already be in big trouble. Because once you drop the bishop out, I'll probably just play a move like b6 or maybe even give back the pawn. But once I get this pawn chain, I'm doing very well. So I think you have to probably go something like bishop f4 here, and then from memory, I think you possibly even just take, and then maybe even just take on d5 is possible. The knight is quickly coming out to c6. There were variations like this, but I don't think rook b1 is critical. You have to go rook d1. That's the best move. And now black goes knight c6. This is still the main line. So, a lot of chess is just preparation now, just memorizing lines. So I thought here, this is my main preparation revolved around knight f3. And then I was going to go knight e7. I remember thinking that was the only way that black could equalize. I think there's also a line with knight b4 is also possible, but I don't think it's very good. I think you go queen e2. And white ends up being better. Well, they might transpose it again, but I think it's a slight difference in knight and f3. Yeah, I think this is not great for black. Yeah, maybe knight. Actually, what happens here after knight c6? Let me just check the engine evaluation. Queen e2. Why can't you go check anyway and then take? Yeah, because the queen's not on f3 now. Now when you take, suddenly knight's jumping in. Right. So I think what I analysed mostly was not knight b4, but knight e7. And then the main move I looked at was rook b1. So often when you're preparing, you're trying to memorize, but you're also looking at some of the ideas because it's very hard to memorize all this, especially when you're an older player like me. Memory's starting to go. I can't memorize all these variations that well. But I looked at this, the castles. I think there was a line with, actually, I think it might even be, is it maybe knight b4 happens first? And then you take, and then they castle, and then you go here. That's right. There was some weird stuff like this. And there was some very weird line where white ends up I'm not sure. It might be something like this. And then you take. Let me check the engine about because it might be able. Yeah, here, right. Yeah. This was the line. It is absolutely nuts. it leads to, this is part of the reason I wanted to show this game, because it leads to like a really crazy position. Let me just have some of these pony ground seeds. I mean, absolutely bonkers. But this has never been played before. Actually, it has. B6 is still following theory. Rook B4, right? C takes B4. Knight B3. Queen C4. So clearly the threat is Rook C1 and take the Queen, right? So Queen C4 pretty much forces White to play Queen A4. If you don't go Queen A4, you're dead lost. Clearly, if you take on C4, I'm going to go DC. I'm material up. My pawns are coming down the board. You might as well resign. So Queen A4, A5, Rook C1, B5, right? I mean, this is just bananas. I mean, if I had to navigate my way to this position in the game and I didn't know this was theory, I would assume black has dead lost it, right? Because Queen A2, you think, well, look, I can't move the Queen. You're going to take on C6 and look at my development. I mean, it pretty much resign time, right? But in fact, the computer now says A4, carry on, knight FD2, bishop E7, right? Knight takes C4, B takes C4. I mean, this is just like absolutely bonkers, right? Bishop E7, knight E7. So I actually prepared this this far in the game, before the game, right? A3, E6, castle. I actually prepared this far, believe it or not. And I mean, you clearly see that these pawns are a massive problem for white. Right, and the computer says eventually, I think you have to give back the knight and the rook to, but you do win the knight on E7. There's some weird line where you win the knight on E7. So he carries on here, like saying like rook takes rook A1, rook F6. Advantage for white. But over the board, you'd be very concerned. Well, as white, I think you'd be very concerned. Look at these pawns, you know, they look very scary, right? So that was part of my preparation, but Harry relatively quickly played 92. Remember that this was still some kind of theory. In fact, most of the games from here end in a draw, right? According to this, there have been one or two wins for white, but most of the games end in a draw. I went knight b4. That's the main line, right? Nothing else is given. A knight g7. How bad is that? Actually, not that bad. Maybe this is new theory, right? But I don't. I think the problem is that black can't really play for win if white just wants to draw in this line, because um, there's many lines where white can just bail out with like rook attacks queen and black has to repeat. And you know, say for example here, like take. Yeah, it's the evaluations jumping, because look at white's black's development. It's looking a little bit shaky, right? I mean, I'm not sure I'll repeat this line because it is very scary to play as black. You're very behind in development. So yeah, so I went knight b4, which I think I remembered was like one of the engine's top moves, right? And then I just remembered that this was still theory, right? And at this point, yeah, I was feeling a little bit nervous because I saw this idea of him going queen b3. So he took on d4 and then he offered a draw. Because I think partly it's the fact that we're the highest rated players in the tournament. And well, Harry's a half point ahead of me as well, right? So he's got a half point in the bank already. He's on 5.5 out of, sorry, 4.5 out of 5. So I guess like either 1.5 out of 2 or 2 out of 2 is going to be at worst like equal first for him, right? So if he gets 2 out of 2 from here, he's probably going to be like clear first. And if he gets 1.5 out of 2, he's going to be at worst equal first. So he's in a good position, right? You could argue maybe I should play him because I'm behind, but I just felt like in this particular game, a draw is a good result. I didn't have a very good record against Harry with black. I've lost both games before. And I still wasn't very sure about this position. I thought if I take on d4, he's going to go queen b3, right? And after bishop e7, it just becomes a massive battle. There's some game he mentioned afterwards. There's some game where Ami played with black, and after rook h3, so black has several moves here. If the game had continued, obviously this wasn't the game. After he took on d4 and offered a draw, I accepted relatively quickly. But in this position, there's several moves that black can play, apparently. But if I take on g5 and go knight e7, for example, I'm a pawn up. I think, am I pawn up? I think I got an extra pawn here. Is that right? Or no, maybe not. Yeah, I'm a pawn up. It's 5 against 6. Black's got 6 pawns, but white's clearly got massive development. In fact, queen b5 is a line here. Now you can't really. Yeah, this is risky to go to f8, e6. I mean, it's still playable, but it's kind of scary, right? Like having your king on f8. So you could have just bowed out at that point. Like rook d7, check, and then you just have to go back. Now, he did mention there was this Amit Guernsey game where Amit was black and he played this move. He created this move over the board, rook h6. Very interesting move. Very creative player, Amit Guernsey. Brilliant tactical player. I mean, I wouldn't have found rook h6. There's no way in a million years I would have even considered that move. But yeah, he ended up winning the game against Andrew Greet in the 4NCL. Amazing move, yeah, rook h6. It's just an unclear position, but I wouldn't have found rook h6. I probably would have bowed out like bishop e7, right? And then knight. I think I probably would have done this. I mean, can you go c4? But yeah, you can actually, but it's very murky. And if you do this, and then here, wow, this is also merk, bishop f4. Yeah, it's dangerous for both sides. Clearly, black is white is taking a risk because his material down. If the initiative falters, you might well lose the endgame. You got 2 connected pass pawns in the middle, but black is also a little bit shaky. The king's safety is not good. Yeah, it's giving a line like this: queen e2, queen b5, king f8, rook f1, and the game continues. And now knight h6 because you can't go c3 because of the pin. So that was the game against Harry, and very interesting game. And yeah, I apologise to any spectators. The organisers probably disappointed that we had a quick draw, but you know that's part of being a professional chess player. You often have results that suit your, you know, your thinking on that day. So basically, I'm going to go into the last 2 rounds. I'm probably going to need at least 1.5 or 2 out of 2. I could get 1.5. If I get 1.5, I mean, if Keith wins today, he'll be ahead of me as well. Then he'll play Harry, and then I would need, if one of those guys then gets 2 out of 2, I can't catch them. But if they draw and then win, I could catch them with 2 out of 2, right? Yeah, so that's effectively my thinking now. I need to get 6 out of 7. If 5.5 will probably be enough for third. Maybe equal second, depending on results. But at best, equal second, probably third. So I think I need at least 2 out of 2. Probably, you know, 1.5's not going to be enough. So yeah, that's the thinking at this point in the tournament. Very interesting tournament. Hopefully, come back again next year.